Hello, welcome to this week's episode of Good Night, everybody. I am your host, as always, Christopher Lawrence. Hello, welcome. This is our big winter spectacular. We have the Rockettes, we have Christmas music, we have festive decor. No, but you know what we do have? Oh, look who it is.
It's
With me, as always,
me.
my sidekick, faithful sidekick, Stephen Garone. Stephen, hello.
Hello, my festive decor here, which is all. If
You know what
anyone's
I
been
always
paying
want to ask
attention,
you? What,
yeah,
what, what, in fact, is that Pac-Man thing? Is that hanging on the wall? Does that
yeah,
function?
yeah, it's my Pac-Man
Now,
machine.
Nintendo does not own Pac-Man, right? Because we'll get sued.
No, I don't think they do. This is Arcade One
Atari.
Up. They
Oh,
they
that
had
works.
this.
Well, turn it off.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
did,
an
but
actual thing.
yeah, they
Wow.
had it
Okay.
so this was a birthday gift from my wife
Well, I
to
didn't
me.
ask for a diatribe about it. I just want to know if it actually works. But
But
go ahead.
yeah, we picked up at Costco from on my birthday. It was like $200 or something like that. But
Mm.
it's a good piece behind. Like almost everything behind me is haunted mansion related,
Yeah, I
except for
can't call
that.
it anything else it is, and I don't care. I just want to know what's happening. So let me tell you something. I had sad news here from my original neck of the woods, Long Island, which is not here. I wish it was. Okay, let me tell you this. So I'm not in the mood for this today, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
It is like 70 degrees. Well, you're
Yeah.
probably no better off.
I
You're
mean,
more
right.
hotter than I am. Where are you?
Actually,
I know where you
actually,
are. What is it like? Don't tell me.
so it's better than it's cool. It's cooler. We're
How
having
is
a
it?
bit of a cold snap. So right now it's 49 degrees, but it feels like
What?
45.
It's 70 degrees here. You're in Arizona. It should be hotter.
We don't have cloud cover and we don't have humidity. So at the end of the day, so our high is
You have to
70
see
and our
humidity.
low is 40.
Oh man, I hate
So
this so much because I'm from the I'm from the Northeast where
me
where
too.
the seasons live.
Yeah.
They don't like to migrate down here apparently.
No.
So Christmas and the Christmas season surrounding is my favorite thing.
hmm
Aside from my wife and child and the good Lord above, the Christmas season is my favorite thing.
hmm
I can't breathe when it's more than 60 degrees. Like I tolerated it for the 2 weeks we used to get it on Long Island. We would get like
hmm
2 weeks. If it went above 85, you're like, oh man, this is crazy. Because we have the seasons.
Right.
It's been 4,000 degrees here since I've been here. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it might as well be. It's like the surface of the sun, and people are playing Christmas songs in the department store.
and
And I feel
the
like I'm in the Twilight Zone. This would be a good episode. Okay. You ever seen the episode Time Enough at Last,
no.
where Mickey from Rocky, he's always trying to read his books? You never saw this?
With the
Yeah,
glass.
Mickey from Rocky. I'm trying to read my books, Rock. No, he didn't sound like that then, but he's trying to read. You know what I'm talking about? It doesn't matter.
The
Who
one,
cares?
yeah, it's that
So
old
he's trying
Twilight
to
Zone
read all his
episode.
books. He's always trying to read his books there. This
Yeah.
is like me. I'm always trying to. I don't have time. But people are always bothering him. He's like, I
Right.
can't read my book now. Something's on fire. My baby's diaper or whatever. I
Right.
don't think he's married. But there's always something. My boss.
hmm
And he's always complaining about not being able to read his books. Well, there's some kind of devastation. It's been years since I've seen it. And everybody
Nuclear
dies.
holocaust.
Yeah, everybody dies except him. I don't know where he was.
He
In the
was
book.
in like a vault with his books so he could
Oh,
get
so
a
you've seen
break.
this. So you've seen
Oh yeah,
this.
I
What
saw
am I
once
doing?
you said the thing about the guy reading his books. I'm like, oh, I remember that
So he
episode.
sits down.
Yeah.
Finally, everyone's dead. How wonderful. I can read my book. And he just sits down to read his book. And his damn glasses fall off and break.
yeah. Yeah, his glasses fell off and he steps on them and it's
I don't have to be like, you
I'm
idiot.
it's
Why
been
am I
played
talking about it?
it's been played on like they did a cover of that on so many different I don't know what you call it when somebody like does
An
an homage to it,
homage. An
but they did it
homage.
on
Which
any
is not to be
cartoon
confused with
show.
fromage, which is cheese.
Right, fromage is cheese. But they've done that.
Anyway,
They've done that
I was
one.
going to
Yeah,
tell
it's
you
a good
was
episode. hmm
what I was going to tell you was there's a guy. Now we had a lot of local color on Long Island. This is not a race thing. I mean, local
Go
color.
on.
We had people
Sure.
we had characters. Well, there's this one guy. So my friend messaged me
hmm
the other day, and he says, Johnny died. I said, who? He said, Johnny from Port Jefferson. You know that guy? I said, what are you talking about? He said, Johnny Fingers. I said, oh no, Johnny Fingers died. This was not the local piano player.
Okay.
This was a guy who would walk around in this little village of Port Jeff, predominantly, with no matter the weather, he had a wife beater on and khaki pants. He didn't talk. And no matter what, when he saw you, if you acknowledge him in any way, he'd give you the double birds. I'm not going to do it. 2 middle fingers.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Johnny. No matter, didn't speak. And he was like a local character. He was Dickensian in his way.
Dickens. Okay, that's an interesting way of putting it, but all right.
The guy died.
Well,
it is Dickensian. Do you know that there's a character in the old Curiosity Shop called Dick Swiveler? That's his name. That's Dickens. So Johnny Fingers is not too. It's not worse than that.
No,
don't blame me.
No, I'm not. I'm. Yeah, no. I mean, Charles Dickens had probably enough problems.
You can look it up.
Yeah. No, I think if I were to look that up, I'd be put on some kind of watch list.
Well, you should have the filters on.
I should. I definitely should.
I do.
I think I do on my work computer.
We have a guest tonight. We have an excellent guest on the show this evening. His name is Aaron Irber. He's the host of the excellent podcast.
Is it Irber?
I might believe it. What did you say?
Is it Irber? I was always thinking Irber. Like that.
Here you go again. Yeah, I mean, if you're prepared one time, I will pass out from shock.
No, I've never actually. But he actually.
Irber. Well, now if he's going to correct me, I'm going to feel bad.
You know what Irber with the R?
Pretend it is so that I can be right.
We got to bring him on.
What? Stop interrupting my introduction.
Okay, go.
What's the matter with you?
It's a weird day.
I told you, look, I got no sympathy from you about Johnny dying.
I'm sorry about Johnny Fingers.
Then I try to educate you about Dickensian name, right? The way he composed these excellent names. I tell you about Dick Swiveler. You laugh for some reason. What's so funny about that?
All me. That's all me.
That's his name. This is a serious book. It's a sad story. The old Curiosity Shop. It's about a poor little girl getting kicked out of her house, and Dick Swiveler is one of the main characters. I don't know why you're smirking.
Let's bring on Aaron, because I'm super excited to hear how his last name is supposed to be pronounced. I hope
he chastises you. Now, Aaron is a literary gentleman. He's literarily minded.
Literarily.
And I hope he roundly chastises you for snickering at the great Charles Dickens and his naming conventions. I don't know where you get off. How many great novels have you written? How many Dick Swivelers have you come up with? You have not dealt with a single Dick Swiveler in your entire life.
I'm actually very glad to say that I have not. No, that is true. I haven't. I can't hold a candle to Charles Dickens and his Dick Swiveler characters. Okay. So
well, then let's know our place a little bit here. Okay. You have not Dick Swiveled a single instance in your whole life.
No, not.
I'm going to bring on Aaron. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us.
How's it going?
Good to see you. We're starting off the holiday season with rightfully so. I tried to just bring up Dickens because
you're a cultured man. That's
right, yeah. And it's Christmas time.
Yeah.
And what author is more in line with the spirit of Christmas?
He wrote the Hanukkah story, right? That's what he wrote.
The Hanukkah story.
Yeah. I remember that one with the Muppets.
Don't mention the J's around this guy.
First off, the Muppets in A Christmas Carol. The Muppets Christmas Carol is the best version of the Christmas Carol.
Somebody said, oh, it was Ricky Gervais many, many years ago. He said, I love A Christmas Carol. And he said, there's only one way you can prove on Christmas Carol, and that's with A Muppets Christmas Carol. And he's right.
That's right.
Fantastic.
Well, because the
right once at least.
Well, I mean, because the Christmas Carol, like if you read the story, like the Dickens narrator voice,
my favorite opening line possibly in literature.
But like his narration is so important to the story, and every other version of A Christmas Carol, like movie, cuts it out, right?
Right.
Because the narrators, but like the Muppet Christmas Carol actually pulls that in so that you have Gonzo being Charles Dickens, so he could say, the Marleys were dead to begin with.
That's right. Yeah.
Dead as a doornail. And I don't know what is particularly dead about a doornail. A coffin nails would be anyway.
Yep.
Very good.
Yep.
Close enough. Very close.
It's my favorite.
Is your favorite movie or book?
Well,
Or Christmas movie?
Christmas Carol is my favorite Christmas.
Why am I
story.
interviewing you?
Every time?
I think I agree with that. I think my favorite Christmas movie is probably A Christmas Carol 2, The Muppets Christmas Carol.
See, mine is It's a
also like
Wonderful
Elf.
Life, but
Elf
I
is
can't
good.
watch it.
Elf.
I used to not like Elf, but it really grew
I
on
hate
me. I
Well-
just think it's like a really sweet movie.
It has famous Catholic
here we
actor in
Here
there.
we go.
You know the famous Catholic actor who's in there?
Peter Dinklage.
No, I don't think it's.
I don't know. Was it Will Ferrell? I have no idea.
No, it's Papa Elf. Now, and that,
Yeah, I think I did know that. Yeah, what's his
Who
name?
is it? I don't remember. Who is it?
now it's now blind mind has
What
blanked. I
else
just
is
read
he
his
in?
book.
What else is he in?
Yeah,
He's on a lot of things. He's friends with Don Rickles. It's Bob Newhart. Bob
oh
Newhart.
Bob
yeah,
Newhart,
yep,
yeah.
yep, you're right.
They were
Yep,
best friends.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a huge Catholic. Like,
Yeah.
he was short, so like short and thin, so he wasn't a huge Catholic, but he was big into his faith, is what I'm
I
saying.
remember in the movie he was pretty short.
Yeah, no, I mean everyone, every elf was short in the movie. Him in particular, but I think like they didn't even need to use like that camera trick. It's just that he was so short, and Will Ferrell's so tall. It was
Yeah,
just
Will Ferrell's
that was
actually
just
that
the
much taller than he is. Yeah, that
Will
they did
Ferrell.
that is just real life. Yep.
Yeah, Will Ferrell on his own is like he's like 7'8" or something like that.
Yeah,
That's not
that's
true.
right.
But he's very tall, and
He's got gigantism like Andre the Giant. But nobody talks about it.
no, nobody talks.
Sad.
About it. Bob Newhart is not.
It's an open secret. It's an open secret. Well,
Bob
Bob Newhart, did he die?
He's a Nephilim.
Is he alive?
No,
I
Bob
think
Newhart died. He died
right? Yeah.
this past year. I was very sad because I didn't know
Today
he
was
Catholic.
was it today or yesterday? Was oh no, I can't believe I forgot his name. He's like my favorite from the Carol Burnett show.
Oh yeah.
It was his birthday. What is his name? I can't remember. This is great television. I can't remember. Tim Conway.
Oh yeah, Tim Conway.
Mr. Tim Conway.
Great
What's Tim
Tim
Conway?
Conway.
About 180
Yeah,
pounds.
it was his birthday. I think today or yesterday. He was
Okay.
the
So
best.
I was going to say that, but we have Will Ferrell is like a Nephilim as a giant, which then can lead us back into Aaron Irber.
Yes, Aaron,
Irber.
tell the people,
Uber.
tell the people, and Stephen, what your podcast is about.
Sure. So I'll pronounce my last name. It's Irber, and
That's what I said. See, that's what I said.
It's Irber, but it sounds like it spells with an E in the beginning. But so yeah, Will Ferrell as a Nephilim, he was created in a ritual between a mating ritual between a demon and humans. That's a little known fact about Will Ferrell.
Let's get on the same page about that. Are we all in agreement that that's what they were? I don't like this equivocating about
The Nephilim.
the tribe of Seth and blah blah blah.
I
These are hybrids, right? I think.
Well, it's kind of the
I'm
way
100%
that I have come to kind of accept is I think the two hypotheses for what the Nephilim were. One was the sons of Seth, or the Sethite hypothesis, where they were just humans, the Israelites and the Canaanites, or the children of Cain, the daughters of Cain, intermarrying and having children, and those children were particularly monstrous and cruel and wicked. But then there's the other hypothesis where it's fallen angels and human women. And the issue with that one is Augustine and Aquinas were like, okay, angels can't, since they're spiritual beings, they're not physical, they can't physically create offspring. And that's true. The way to get around that is actually a kind of a synthesis of both hypotheses, where usually in the pagan cultures where this stuff was going on, like especially in the Bible with like I think the Hittites and other groups like that, where they would have like their king was viewed as a divine figure, and they would ritually become possessed by the god the god that they worship, and then have temple prostitutes. It's grisly, but that's a way to like synthesize both of those things, where it's like it's still two humans involved, but the way that they are producing these children. Now the idea is like, were they huge? Were they inhuman? I don't think so. I think they could have been like ritually possessed by demons, which could give you enhanced strength, and all that stuff. But I don't think they weren't human, but I do think that they probably were created through this ritual sort of like rape. Super fun topic. But it's a good way to like synthesize both of those hypotheses. So actually they're not really in conflict with one another when you understand like the ritual participation that these like pagan kings were doing. And not every pagan group had Nephilim. They didn't. Not every single one had that ritual of like a demon possessing you and stuff. But that's kind of how I understand it. So yeah, it actually like is way more gruesome, but also like way more interesting.
Yeah, I think they're hybrids for sure, because we see them again, and their stature is mentioned several times.
Yeah, it could be that
and his brother, and then
Saint Christopher.
Saint Christopher. But I'm talking about just in numbers, when it says, "And for them we seemed as grasshoppers." So I don't know. It's interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they were like literally giants or not. I mean, that's kind of the idea in folklore, right?
I like to think they are.
Yeah.
Christopher.
I really think it. It could be like one way to like rationalize it. And I use air quotes because I don't know if I'm super convinced by this, but if they are going around and pillaging and like stealing stuff and like eating all the food, and they're the ones getting all the food, nutrients and stuff, they're going to be bigger physically than the like the Israelites, for example. So like that's one way to like rationalize it. Now I don't know if that would account for the fact that they're described as giants, right? But it could be all of the above. It could be all that stuff. I don't know. I tend to go with more the mythic sort of.
Probably my baby.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I would think you would, because of your podcast. So tell Steven and the people at home, what is your podcast about? How did you start this podcast? Because Steven doesn't know anything.
Well, I actually did a recording for Steven.
You did?
One of your skits. I think I was coming down with a very bad cold, and so I got that to you right before like a week of sickness. So I felt when I was recording it, I was like feeling myself like getting sicker and sicker, and I'm like, I have to get this done. And so I finally did it. It sounded pretty good, and then I spent like a week on the couch. So my
know what he did to me? Let me tell you this. He asked me to do one of those things a long time ago, an Indiana Jones skit.
Yeah,
which I did. I recorded like two of them, and then he replaced me with some guy with a high pitched voice
on the second and third. So I tell you why.
And he left one of them with mine. Yeah. So it was like Indiana went through reverse puberty, because there's mine on the first one, and I'm like, yeah, here we go. And then the next two, the guy's like, hey, we're going in the cave, and I was like, what the hell happened here?
So the reason,
and he never explained himself.
This is the first I waited for something like that. So the reason was you were doing stuff, and then you disappeared for a while, and when you disappeared, I know you did, and like I lost almost all contact with you, and I needed like a rerun of some of the things. Like I did a bit of a rewrite, and so I needed something different, and I couldn't actually get to you to ask you to redo the words. And so I had to recast
the guy you picked. I don't know who it was, but you picked the guy that sounded the least like me or Indiana Jones that I've ever heard in my life.
Yes, but he was available to do the voice.
Here's what happened. I was working for
He showed up for the recording.
yeah, like whoever shows up. It was some guy that knocked on his door. He has a lot of weird people knocking on his door. No, here's what happened, Aaron. I was working for, and I don't think I'd met you yet, but I was working for an unnamed Catholic radio network.
Mm-hmm.
I think I know what it is. I think we've talked about this before.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I met him. I found him somehow over the course of looking for a guest for that.
Yeah.
And then I quit that. And I guess he lost contact with me for a while at that point.
You pretended not to know me for a year when I texted you. I would
know.
text you, and you'd be like, "Who's this? Who's this phone number?" And so it just compounded on me. I couldn't get in contact with you, and when I tried to, I didn't know if I successfully had done so. It gave me a complex.
I don't recall this at all.
Until a full year, I would send messages and I would say, "Hey, this is Chris, right?" And he's like, "Who? I don't know. Who is this?" And so
wow.
I have no memory of this.
Yeah, of course he doesn't.
I would never act in such a way. But I don't know. Let me try again. If Stephen will not interrupt, tell Stephen in baby terms what your podcast is about.
All right. So it's about literature. It's about fairy tales.
Those are books. They're like long books.
Stories.
They don't have pictures in them usually.
Pieces of paper with words on them, bound in with a binding of some kind. And science fiction stories, fantasy stories, mostly from Catholic authors. Although I've had Protestants and Orthodox on as well, and talking about the liturgy, the sacraments, and how we participate in Christ's story through the liturgy, and just stuff like that. So like mythology, it's all up for grabs. Like I talk about it, pretty much anything that piques my interest. I'll have I'll like obsess about it for like a month or two, and then I'll have a few people on to discuss it, whatever it is. Like right now, I'm kind of into like Lakota culture and like Native American culture. I just finished this long like series from the what are they called, the Rest is History podcast, talking about like the Battle of Little Bighorn and like General Custer and like Crazy Horse and all these characters from the Wild West. And I'm like, wow, this is super interesting. So yeah, I'll probably do something with that and at some point. But yeah, just anything like just pagan mythology and all that stuff. And I try to find interesting things about them that like Our Lady of Guadalupe is a good example, like of how like these symbols in pagan culture, like in the Aztec culture, get repurposed for Christianity, and like where the Franciscans couldn't convert these people. They just couldn't. Like they did their best, and they did not understand what the Aztec culture was, how it functioned, like how it was largely functioning off of like poetry and bloodshed. And they got the bloodshed part, but the poetry stuff it kind of went over their heads. So yeah, and then like Our Lady of Guadalupe basically is this like myth, like C.S. Lewis says, Christ is the myth made fact, and this is like a lower level sort of instantiation of that, where like Juan Diego participates in this Aztec sort of myth that's been redeemed, called like the Flower World prophecy, and there's a whole book about it that I highly recommend called the Flower World, and yeah, it's really, really good. So like it's that kind of stuff. That's what I'm really interested in, is like the pagan prefigurements of Christianity. So yeah, that's what the podcast is. And it's fun.
Now I have there's a lot of things I don't understand about the whole Santa Claus myth. You'd be the good guy to ask. Mm-hmm. Why does he have? This is maybe the thing that bothers me the most. Mm-hmm. Where do the flying reindeer and the elves come from? So we start with Saint Nicholas, right? Ostensibly, who was a real bishop. Who now I understand the parts that come from that. Like he threw pouches of gold coins,
gift giving, and
into children's shoes through the window. They ended up in their shoes, in their stockings, whatever. Mm-hmm. Very generous, very good with the children, as you say. I don't understand that. So here's what. Okay, it makes me mad. Santa Claus makes me angry, and I'll tell you why. Because I feel like, maybe you can correct me, and then I can let some of this anger go. But I feel like this is the intentional cartooning of a good and historic and beloved saintly figure for no reason other than commercialization.
Mhm.
Is that fair, or is there something there that is there some way we can logically extrapolate these idea of flying reindeer and stupid elves with not that all elves are stupid, but these elves are stupid. From
So-
Saint Nicholas. Why?
Sure.
Because I feel like his
Yeah.
story was good enough, right?
So
should be.
there's some truth to that with like Coca-Cola. Like the reason we have like the big fat jolly Santa Claus now is largely because of
Yeah.
Coca-Cola, and then the reindeer. I want to say the reindeer are not just an invention out of whole cloth. They might come from the Father Christmas tradition in like England. I don't know, but the elves. So a lot of the mythology around Santa Claus, a lot of the modern stuff is from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, right? The Rankin Bass film. We just watched it the other day.
So
With like
wait,
claymation and stuff. And it's good. You know, it's classic. It's
I
really
love
you I don't know. I have stuff to say about that movie, but like it's a classic. So a lot of the mythology, like Rudolph was never part of like any sort of folklore or any sort of tradition. He was invented for that movie. But now he's really a part of the Santa Claus sort of like mythology. And like the elves. So in Germany, and I think in parts of Europe, you hit this idea of Krampus, right? And Krampus was like
Right.
the evil Santa, right? So if you're bad, Krampus would come get you, and he's like this demon. And Krampus, in some stories, was working like enslaved to Saint Nicholas. So like Saint Nicholas defeated him, and then like how God uses demons to bring people to repentance, Saint Nicholas would use Krampus to as a servant, right, to go punish evildoers and all that stuff.
Oh,
And
that's
there,
cool.
yeah, and so elves kind of fit into that because elves, in traditional folklore, elves are evil. They're kind of evil. They're
really? Are they
mischievous.
always? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're not nice. They can sometimes help
Ah.
you, but usually they're there to trick you or to do wicked things to you. And
I thought
so
that was gnomes.
well, the folklore gets kind of fuzzy. I mean, with those, like, because the further back you go, the harder it is to tell them apart. They're also like shapeshifters.
So are elves and gnomes all part of the Fae?
Yeah, I think they would be. They'd be Fae or fairies. And so there is some precedence for the elves and Santa Claus. The reindeer might come again from the Father Christmas tradition. A lot of the American Santa Claus is from advertising, like Coca-Cola, that sort of thing. But like Santa Claus connected to Saint Nicholas, like we tell our kids it's Saint Nicholas, right? It's Santa is Saint Nicholas. We just use them interchangeably. And yeah, so I think it's one of those things where it's like we've got this figure of Santa and we've forgotten the roots of Santa Claus and like who he actually is. It's kind of like with the Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, all of these holidays.
Yeah.
Groundhog's Day is Candlemas. That's Candlemas.
Oh.
And so it's like we've got all these these remnants of like Christian culture. We've cut them off from their roots, and now they're just kind of like free floating around. Even the Easter Bunny has precedent in the Middle Ages.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I did not know that. I don't know a lot of things.
Yeah. So
I knew that because I prepared.
Now, where do we get the abominable snowman?
Well, that's like a Bigfoot character.
And Yukon Cornelius.
Well, he's just awesome. Yukon Cornelius.
That's a bumble. That's not an abominable snowman. It was a bumble.
Yeah. And they bounce. They don't float.
The bumbles bounce.
Yeah.
He's
Yukon Cornelius is the best part of that movie, man. He's awesome.
I love him. He's my favorite.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He's my favorite part of the whole movie.
Have you seen the cut ending where he finds what he's looking for, which is a peppermint mine?
What? Seriously?
So there's an alternate ending where it's cut from re-releases, but in the original, you know how he keeps hitting his axe and then licking it, and then no, because people presume he's searching for gold, but he's at the North Pole. He throws it up in the North Pole, and then it comes down, and he licks it, and it goes, "Eureka, peppermint!" Because that's what he's searching for.
I wonder if it's. I just got that they remastered all of them and put out a box set.
Yeah,
and we got that. I wonder if it's on the bonus disc. I haven't
maybe.
checked.
All I know is that it's on YouTube, so you can see it. But
I could have swore he said he was looking for gold.
yeah, I mean, like there's
Isn't that why they think silver and gold? Isn't that from Rudolph?
I
Or is
mean,
that from one of the other ones?
that
he's
is the same one.
Gold, and he switches to silver. And yeah, I don't know.
But
That's really funny though.
The image of Santa Claus that is picked up by Coca-Cola, isn't that the same one from the book The Night Before Christmas? And like that's where they kind of got it. And that has the names of the original, because that has the names of all the reindeer.
I don't understand the chimney. I mean, I get it because he's got to get the presents in there somehow instead of just throwing stuff in the window like St. Nicholas. But I don't. It bothers me. I don't understand the fun. And then they start referring to
on the roof and throwing stuff down the chimney.
Was there a version like that?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So he comes. So the daughter, there are 3 daughters.
I always throw the window.
Yeah, one of them he throws through the window. Another one he throws, I think, down the gold coins down the chimney.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember the third one, but like, and it's to save them from prostitution, basically. And so the father, like they're so poor that they were going to have to go into prostitution just to survive. And so St. Nicholas, as the bishop, he secretly, so they wouldn't be ashamed, he did it secretly, so they wouldn't refuse it. And so he gave them money and stuff. There's also a story of St. Nicholas where he is, it's like a shopkeeper. I can't remember his profession. I think he pickles things. And he's a murderer. And so he kills and pickles children.
Well, this is Sweeney Todd.
Yeah, so St. Nicholas finds out, and he goes to him and he raises the children back from the dead. And then because of that, then the murderer repents and
that's why he's the patron saint of children, because of that act right there.
And he helped the children with the money too. There's multiple reasons. But see, the real story is interesting enough.
Cooler.
We didn't need all this because then they start calling Santa Claus the jolly old elf. It's not bad enough that he works with elves and employs them or enslaves them. Now they've made him into one. And then the flying reindeer. I mean, it's just, there's a lot. I just don't.
It's actually interesting to think about like the evolution of like stories, because like one of them, like something that came recently in like the last 20 years was the story of Slender Man, right? And you've probably heard of this thing, but you can actually go to the website somethingawful.com. They have a forum there, and that's where they decided to create Slender Man. And so like you can see the actual origin of this mythos, and then see how it like evolved and got out of control. Because it was like, and like the different things, and them arguing about the different parts of the story that they liked and didn't like, and what was official and not official.
And you know that the only person that can defeat Slender Man is Fat Albert.
There you go.
That's not.
That's his arch enemy.
You have to negate him out with equal opposite force, right?
Exactly. It's the unmovable force and the unstoppable. No, wait a minute. The unstoppable force and the immovable object. Do you know that, speaking of that, do you know that those jerks at Marvel Comics, they made Santa Claus into a mutant? It's canon in their 616 universe. Santa Claus is an Omega level mutant like Iceman.
Omega level mutant.
Yeah. He's impossible to defeat.
He's impossible to defeat.
You just try Almost. Try to defeat him.
Yeah.
So there's a great story by John C. Wright. There's a great story by John C. Wright called "Yes, Virginia, There Is a Santa Claus."
Oh yeah.
It's really, really good. It's one of my favorites. And it's got St. Nicholas in it, and he weaves in all of these like the traditional stories, but also the more modern stuff, and he does a really good job spinning it all together. And it's really good, and I recommend it. So you can find it, and I think it's available online. I think he's got it on his website, sci-fi-right.com.
What was Yes, Virginia, There Is a Santa Claus?
Are you doing it now? You're looking it up now?
I always have to look it up now so I don't forget it, because otherwise, no. Here's the thing,
Steven. What did I tell you about Post-its? Remember we had this talk?
I know, but like 30 minutes after the show ends, I'll be like, "There's this book about Santa that."
It's short.
Okay, and I did. I looked it up. That's all I did. I just put it up there, and now it's up there. Okay, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting because like all these different cultures have their Christmas gift giver, which was some sort of winter gift giver, which then was morphed into Santa, and like we take bits and pieces of all of it, right? It's like the Germans with the elves, right? And then you had like the different areas that would have him delivering toys from a sleigh, but the reindeer didn't fly, and then all of a sudden they do fly, which may or may not be because of that one story. And then and then
in
Rudolph
Italy,
shows up.
In Italy, they have La Befana. They have La Befana, and she is an old woman who flies around on a broom giving out. She's looking for the Christ child, and she's going to bring him baked goods and treats and stuff. And so she is always looking for him, and so she gives baked goods and treats to all the children that she comes across in case they're the Christ child. So in Italy, they have that's their gift giving tradition is La Befana. And
why does America make everything so stupid? So elves in America are either little chubby stupid things that make toys, or they're in a tree making cookies. But we make everything stupid. It's really stupid.
Have you guys seen Fat Man? Have you guys seen Mel Gibson's Fat Man?
I have not.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. It's so good. He is Santa Claus. Mel Gibson plays Santa Claus, and he's got elves and all that stuff, and it's amazing. It's a really good movie.
Doesn't he like work for the CIA or something like that?
Yeah, he's got a government contract. It sounds ridiculous, but he's got a government contract to make toys to help the American economy and stuff. And he's having a crisis of faith where he is like, am I doing any good anymore? Because kids are like there's this one one of the main characters is this child who's just awful. He's awful. And he hires like hitmen and stuff, and he's super rich, and he's stealing money from his grandma and all that stuff. So all these kids are like, kids are getting worse and worse and worse, and Santa Claus is like, am I doing any good anymore? Is what I'm doing worth it? And then the kid sends a hitman after Santa Claus, and it sounds insane, and it is insane, but it's like a surprisingly deep movie. It had no reason to be that good, but it was. And so if you're looking for an R-rated Christmas movie, Batman is I recommend it. It's really, really good.
What's your take on Rise of the Guardians as part of the Santa mythos?
I have not seen that. Is that the animated one?
Yeah, you haven't seen Rise of the Guardians? No, that's a different one. So Rise of the Guardians is about, so what it is like the man in the moon, which is God, chooses people, they die, and after they die, he brings them back to be these guardians of children. One of them is Saint Nicholas, who is Santa Claus. He's Russian for some reason, but and then the story follows like a demon called Pitch Black, who is trying to destroy children's dreams, and how the guardians are supposed to help. And like if they believe in, like if you believe in the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy, and that power of that belief is what gives them that power. It's actually a surprisingly good movie. Like it's a DreamWorks film. DreamWorks has these like weird films that are actually really stupidly good, even though they have no right to be. Like you watch it, it's like you're like, oh yeah, no, the Wild Robot, that seems like a weird movie, and then you watch it like, I can't stop crying. This is such a good movie. And it's weird.
Yeah.
But
all right.
As far as the Santa mythos, you should give it a shot.
Yeah. Cool. Is it it looks like it might be, is it kid friendly?
It is. Yeah, my kids watch it. We watch it. I mean, it's got some scary bits in it. But yeah, I mean, it's, but otherwise,
Puss in Boots 2 was really good.
Oh, that was good.
Puss in Boots 2. I mean, I watched that. I like have to convince my kids, like, don't you guys want to watch Puss in Boots: The Last Wish? No, are you sure? Because you guys love that movie.
It was really good. Like I was shocked.
They just released Shrek in 4K. I got to get that.
I won't do Shrek for my kids.
Well, maybe not for the kids.
We've seen my kids have watched the first Shrek, and I've come to like not really like Shrek that much.
Oh, why?
Well, it's funny, but it's super subversive. It's like really subversive. Now, Puss in Boots, they take all that and they reverse it. You know, they make it. They flip it. They flip the script, and now like with Puss in Boots, they play it straight. You know, and the best part about Shrek is Puss in Boots.
Well, it's weird how in storytelling, like sometimes when you take, like the best way to tell a story is to tell it straight, right? And if you're trying to tell it where like the characters think that they're in a comedy. Like that's the reason why I'm going to pull it back to Muppet Christmas Carol. The reason why Muppet Christmas Carol works is because Michael Caine plays that as serious as cancer, right?
Oh,
Like
yeah,
Michael Caine,
right, yeah.
like
Yeah.
if you pulled out his performance right from it and just put those things together and removed all the Muppets, it would still be a fantastic portrayal of
Yeah.
Scrooge.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
And they
that's the
take it
difference.
seriously. They take the source material
Yeah.
seriously, but they also are
Yeah.
fun, they have fun with it, you know. But they don't ever make fun of like the story itself. They
No.
like they have jokes and they are goofy, but it's never at like the expense of the actual story.
Right.
But
And
Dickens always had that balance of humor
Mhm.
inserted into even the most tragic of his tales. Anyway, and I
Oh,
think
yeah.
they just they recognized that and they inserted that same
right,
kind of balance. It's just like you said, they take it very seriously, but the whole thing doesn't need to be overly serious. There's moments of levity in it for sure, and the
Right.
music is so good in it
Oh,
too.
yeah.
It's
Right.
great. We listened
yeah,
to that.
take-
it's good.
Christmas Carol.
Like you can take that and contrast it with the last Muppet movie that came out, which was Muppets Most Wanted. And in that movie, they didn't take like the stakes were so low. They didn't take anything seriously. And all the actors were like, yeah, I'm in a comedy. So they're acting like they're in a comedy instead of portraying a character that is in a comedy seriously.
Oh, that
Right, which
reminds
is-
me. Did you see that stupid thing that Elon Musk did? He commissioned this sculpture of a giant fork in the road. Did you see this?
No,
No,
And
but
I was
that
like,
sounds
I've
like
seen
something
that
he would
somewhere.
do.
Okay, listen. He commissioned. It's on the Tesla headquarters grounds in Texas. It's literally a giant metal fork in the middle of the road, and he said, "This is like the symbol of our country at this time. I commissioned this art so that we make sure we take the right path." He's dead serious.
I'm
And
looking
I was
at
like,
pictures
I was like, I've seen this somewhere before. I know I have. It's in the Muppet movie.
Mm.
It's a scene from the Muppet movie. It's
Yeah.
literally. Do you remember this?
Wow.
Yeah.
They're driving along in Fozzie's when a Studebaker, and there's a literal fork in the road, and they're like, "Yo,
Oh, yeah.
yeah," and it's
Yep.
it's the exact same thing.
That's in the first
So
Muppet movie.
this guy,
Yeah.
Yeah.
guy who's a genius. This is the biggest genius in the world, right?
He,
All he did was pay, I'm assuming, millions and millions of dollars to commission the real life shot from the Muppet movie.
look, he is a main character
And he's
in the
in
story
charge
of
of-
the world.
He's in charge of the efficiency of the government now.
But
Well,
that's his own
okay.
money. He can do whatever he wants with his own money.
As
Right?
long
Like
as-
he,
yeah.
But he's going to
I'd like
start
to-
doing it with your money.
I mean, if it were my money, it'd be a spork, but that's
It's
all
going
right.
to be. He's going to start doing it with your money.
Spork,
Again,
spork's more efficient, right? So if you're gonna go for efficiency, especially the spork with like the little serrated edge, so it's got a knife
Yeah.
in there too. So if
Yeah.
you're gonna blow money, use a spork knife, you know. Then you get all three, and it's like it's cost effective.
that's
There you
going
go.
to be the mandate. The mandate is going to be that all silverware must be spork
Must be
knives.
sport.
That's right.
That's what we're looking for. That's the next. That's Elon Musk with his Doge thing. He's going to be like, hey,
Yep.
we're gonna all your forks and your spoons, get rid of them all. They're all spork knives. There
That's
you
right.
go.
And he's gonna hook us all up to the Neuralink, you know, satellites with our brains. We'll transcend our bodies, and we'll have spork knives.
You're the person to ask this, and I know Chris is probably dying to ask it, but I'm stealing his thunder for a second. AI and demons. What are your
Oh, there we
thoughts?
go. Yeah.
I don't. So, gosh, I don't like AI. I don't like AI art.
Me
So
neither.
first of all,
Ah.
AI, like if you're gonna use it to make like images, it should just be for fun. You know, like
Mhm.
what really bothers me is like people using it to create like sacred images. You know,
Yeah.
they're just
Yeah.
they're awful. They're
Couldn't
so
agree
they're
more.
awful.
Jesus only had 10 fingers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 6 fingers on each hand. That's another thing
Mm-hmm.
too that really creeps me out is the whole 6 fingers thing. They can't get hands right. So I don't think it's inherently demonic. I don't think that. But I will say that there's something about it that functions like a bodiless spirit would function.
Mhm.
Where it's like you're typing in this information, you're calling up answers, you know, like you would in like a seance or something like that.
Mhm.
No, it's not
Mhm.
literally demonic. Yeah, I don't, not inherently, but I think that it is. I also don't think it is going to like become self-aware. I don't think that's possible. But I think I agree with what Jonathan Pageau says about it, where he says if enough people believe that it's self-aware, then it doesn't matter if it actually can become self-aware, because enough people will believe it's self-aware, they will treat it as a god, right?
It's tailor-made to be a vessel for that stuff, though. Even if it's
Well,
not
that's another thing
inherently.
too. So the tech people that from what I've heard, I haven't dug too much into this, but from what I have heard from other listening about other people talking about AI, is that a lot of the tech people, they view themselves as building a body for a god. And they're trying to create a god, basically, and using AI as its body, like an idol. Idols are like bodies for the demon gods that were worshipped, right? So you create this idol, you give it food, you put clothes on it, whatever, and then it's supposed to do things for you, right? Because you're taking care of it, and you call there are rituals you can call in spirits into these idols and stuff, and that's, I think, what some people in the technological Silicon Valley world, that's what they want to do, right? I don't know if they actually believe that they're bringing in a literal god, but I think that they are. It doesn't really matter what they believe. If they're trying to do something like create a god, then they're going to succeed in some fashion. Now they're not going to get what they want.
Well, Stephen loves it. He said, Stephen said to me, if you can think of a better way for me to get my own homunculus, I'd like to hear it.
I didn't use the word homunculus. It was redonkulous body is what I said. But that was no, I use it. So I use it a lot.
Well, because you said anyway that I don't have to clean my own toilets anymore.
That's 100.
It's good. No, it's worth it.
So I don't think it's inherently evil. I just think, and I think it's funny when people do with it. Like when Trump was talking about the cats and the people eating cats and dogs, and people were like making images of Trump like cuddling animals and saving them from Nancy Pelosi and stuff. I thought that was hilarious.
Right.
So I'm like, it's really funny. But what I don't like is when you use it to like, you create an image and you say, this is art, we're gonna hang this in the church. I'm like, no, don't do
that. My church, the parish that I go to, they did like a flyer and they had an image on top of those flyers for like the church picnic or something like that. And I was like, that's AI generated. Like, how do you know? It's like, you can tell. Just the color saturation's not quite right. The proportions are off just a little bit. Like, I use AI a lot. I use it for my work because I work with coding and it's really helpful. Instead of going into Google, it's basically a faster Google and it really helps out. I also use it to make music because what I do, and this is where I justify myself, because I go on and I'm like, hey, so I go on to like the ChatGPT. I'm like, hey, ChatGPT, write me a ska punk song about martyrs. And so it'll write a ska punk song about martyrs. And then I go, okay. And I toss that into Suno, which is the AI music generator. And then it generates me a ska punk song about the martyrs. And you know what? It slaps. And it's real. I understand it's not real people singing, whatever, but I can't hire a real band to on a whim to be like, hey, here, write me a song and then perform it. I want a ska punk song about the history of martyrs in the church. Go. Because that's it.
You can do that. It's called Fiverr. People do it all the time.
Yeah, but I can't do it and then listen to it within 2 minutes.
They're hungry.
See,
I would love to have your American $5 to write a song.
It is for fun. I've had thoughts about creating a Spotify account, just tossing the songs on there and seeing if they catch on.
So I heard a Johnny Cash. There's an AI generated Johnny Cash singing the Barbie girl song.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty funny.
That guy's channel is called "Here I Ruined It."
Okay,
he does it for a lot of songs. He does these mashups with AI of like these famous vocalists singing stuff. It's called "Here I Ruined It." Yeah, it's really good. Funny.
Yeah, that kind of stuff is good. Funny. I like that. I'm not going to say it's like inherently evil. I just think that it's, especially with like.
So AI is a fae. It's not a demon. It's not an angel. It's a fae. It could be.
Sure, yeah, the fae are bad.
It's kind of like
or not
technology.
He said they are.
We have all this stuff like smartphones. We have all these things that we don't know how to use properly. Mm-hmm. We haven't integrated it into our society fully yet, where we can use it and still be human beings. And then we're just adding this other stuff. Like, oh, here's AI too. Here's all this other stuff we can't handle as people. And we're gonna get stuff like we already have it. Like AI generated pornography of famous people, or like where you say, oh, look at these guys, they're like doing stuff, whatever, and it's fake, right? It's completely fake,
Right.
and people believe it, right? And you have all this other stuff where it's like, oh, well, these deep fake videos where they look really real, and it's that kind of stuff where that's really dangerous. And I think that it's not gonna be fun. It's not gonna be good, in the long run with this technology. I think you can use it for fun, silly things, and I think that's perfectly fine. But in the big picture, with the societal problems that this is going to bring about, I don't think it's going to end well.
It's going to go back to you can't
Steven,
believe what you read. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stephen,
right.
Take a note after the show. I want to register. Hey, look at these guys doing stuff.com.
Look at these guys doing stuff.com.
That's where somebody else does. And then this is good. Because nobody's watching the show. If we make money that way.
Yeah, no, that's great.
I'm glad I could give you some ideas.
Well, we'll cut you in. We'll cut you in there.
Oh, good. I don't want to be one of the guys doing stuff. I don't.
No. It'll just be like Steven and some other guys. But not you. We'll make up the other guys. I don't know for Steven. Whoever Steven likes.
Well, I mean, we'll just AI generate them. It's fine.
He likes Disney people. Disney princes.
Gosh.
Oh, he's always going on about Gerard? What's his name? From Beauty and the Beast.
Gaston.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I said. You're always going on about that guy. So it could be like you and Gaston.
I could think of worse.
You know what? That could be a subdomain. Stephen and Gaston doing stuff.com.
Stephen and Gaston doing stuff. You know what? That actually sounds. It sounds like that could be transformed into something that I don't want it to be transformed into.
I have no control over that. I'm not proposing that.
I know. I don't want to be Rule 34.
Your head went there, not mine. I'm thinking about on a seesaw, or you're at the beach taking a walk. Your mind went somewhere else, Stephen.
I have been on the internet for a long time.
Okay? Oh, too long.
Way too long. I should not have been we were beta testers for AOL. I'll put it that way.
Who's we?
My family. My parents were beta testers for AOL, and before that they had CompuServe.
You told me your father, that's right, because you said your father every year would force you all to watch the Apple keynote address and then recite it back to him.
Yes.
But this is true, Aaron. This is true. He told me
the recitation, but no, we would have to watch it live, and then he'd record it, and then we would watch it 3 or 4 more times. We had a satellite TV. So we'd catch the stream when it was broadcast, because it was supposed to be broadcast to news channels, so news channels could pick it up and watch it and then report on it. We picked up on it, and he would record it on the VCR that we had, and he would watch it live. Then, later that day, he would watch it again, and then he would find his favorite bits and he'd watch those. My father, you might like him. He was a crazy guy. He was a conspiracy theorist. He thought the X-Files were biographical. He didn't think that it was. He thought that the X-Files, the alien of all the alien and government stuff. He thought all of that was 100% real. Mm-hmm. There was a real smoking guy, the Cancer Man. Mm-hmm. There was all of that was just the way to get the conspiracy theories into the masses. But
that's what they do. That's what
everything on it was real.
He's right.
Yeah. No, that it's not.
Yeah, they use that. They do that. They soften us up by putting it in popular media.
Yeah. I once had
I don't believe now.
All of us. I don't know if you know who Richard Hoagland is.
Who?
No.
Okay, so he's a conspiracy theorist guy. Yeah. Anyway, we all had to go. All of us. I'm talking about I was 8, and I had to go with my parents. And the whole family, we all went to go watch a lecture by this conspiracy theorist guy. And it was 3 hours long. And it was from 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock at night. I fell asleep during it. I internalized some of it because it was in my dreams. But these were the kinds. This is the childhood that I had. Aliens.
Is your father Alex Jones?
No, but he would love him. We used to listen to Art Bell, the Coast to Coast AM guy.
Oh, I love Art Bell.
We used to listen to him all the time. Like that was a thing because it was on too late. So he would listen to the stream because we had the internet. So he'd listen to the stream the next day, and we would all sit there, and it would be like dinner time, and we couldn't talk. The Art Bell show was on, so that my father could listen to it. And we just had to sit there and listen to, or like on Christmas Eve when we were coming home from our Christmas Eve party, because my mom's family had a Christmas Eve party. My dad, on the way back, would make us listen to Art Bell. And then the New Year's Eve party, on New Year's Eve, he had this prediction show where people would call in with predictions. We listened to that every single year.
Yeah.
Coming up, it was you have to understand, my childhood was just like overwhelming with all this stuff. And so when I was a teenager, I full flipped. I went like atheist and nothing is real and everything is garbage. Ooh. Then I came back when I reverted back to Catholicism back a couple of years ago. I was just like mainline Catholicism. And then I found out that it's okay to be Catholic and believe in fairies. Yeah. And that opened up a whole new world of like, of these different ideas, like that I don't have to know everything and understand everything in order to be Catholic. That weird things can happen, right? And the Catholic linguist has told me some stories of things that has happened to him. I don't know if you remember Catholic linguist. He dropped off the face of the earth a while ago.
Yeah. Remember him.
Yeah, but like
I used to think my dad was weird for singing karaoke, but now I don't feel so bad about it.
No, like I wish. My father was an actual amateur musician who would like, again, I spent some time in bars because he was playing and we didn't have a sitter. So I had an interesting childhood.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's interesting.
Well, you turned out so normal.
Right. So the technology stuff has been all around me my entire life. And like, so I see, the weird conspiracy theories, the demons in the box and stuff, like the ghosts in the machine type stuff. Because that was fed to me from childhood that was 100% real because it was on the X-Files and the X-Files was fact.
Yeah. Interesting. I like the X-Files, and the more I learn about all the weird stuff out there, the more I'm like, yeah, the X-Files is probably more right than wrong. And
it's preconditioning.
I suppose. Yeah, I don't know how conscious it was of the screenwriters or anything, but I don't know. I don't believe in aliens, really.
Me neither.
Not like in Little Green Men.
No.
But there's definitely something,
Did you see the videos that came out from the CIA a few years back, where it's like supposedly shows? One of them was like it looked like a bunch of spinning discs that like were spinning in top. Like that's a biblically accurate angel right there. I mean, you couldn't see the eyes on the discs, but that's like these rings. It's just a bunch of rings spinning around. Like that looks like an angel to me. I don't know about you.
Ezekiel. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's creepy. It's creepy to think about, and there's a show called The Haunted Cosmos. I don't listen to it a ton anymore, but it's pretty good. They're like Protestant guys who talk about this stuff. I get kind of frustrated with them because they're Protestant. I get frustrated with Protestants. I like Protestants, but I don't get you guys. I don't get you guys at all.
You guys, there's not a single Protestant.
No. Like if anybody is like
all the ones
I love you all, but like I don't understand you. But they were talking about like they would go through like these different stories of the men in black, and like or these different encounters that people would have with like with the paranormal, and they're super weird. It's like really the one thing that makes me think that AI, well, it is inhuman. It's completely inhuman, because it can't get like hands and feet right, and that's one thing that like if you guys have ever read like Paralandra, C.S. Lewis's Paralandra, when the unman is possessing Weston, and it's like he's describing the movements of Weston is like technically perfect, but there's something about it that makes you think that he's not human, right? Because of the way he's moving. It's like it's instead of like just being able to sit down naturally, it's like the demon is having to like work all the muscles individually and like have them like mechanically like sit down on through a series of commands. And there's a book I just read called a friend of mine, Eleanor Berg Nicholson. She wrote a book called Brother Wolf. And in there's this demonic apparition that happens. And one of the main priest character, he's trying to discern whether or not it was demonic or not. And he's like, do you see her feet? and the main character, she's like, no, I didn't see her feet. And because he said that demons can't get feet right when they pretend to be something else. When they're pretending to be a human or an apparition or something, they don't do feet very well. They can't render the feet very well. And hands are difficult too. Like Six Fingers is an Ari Lafferty story called The Six Fingers of Time.
Oh yeah.
And that has, these different figures throughout history have, six fingers, like polydactyl syndrome or whatever. And they're like, it's a kind of this major conspiracy theory in the book where it's like the secret society, and then at the core of it is this demonic entity, right? And it just reminds, all that stuff is like, okay, there's something about hands and feet not being able to render, though, like that AI can't get them right, that
The
they look
feet
like
thing is
and
one of the ways that saints have routed out false Marian apparitions is if they don't show the feet. If the demon covers the feet, obscures the feet, can't get the feet right, and the saints go, no, you're not. That's not
right.
Because that's what she's crushing the head of the serpent.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
That's what it is, right? That they can't get there. It is hard. Like artists, like animators, they have to do 4-fingered hands because it's most of the time, like in The Simpsons. Like The Simpsons,
right?
It's really hard to draw hands. Like these are really complex things, where it's like you have the golden, what is it called? Like the golden ratio or something like that, where I can't remember what it is, but it's like our hands are mathematically like perfect, right? And they're designed in such a way that it's like they're just these amazingly mathematically intricate things. And animators have a really hard time drawing hands. Hands are really hard to draw, and so they draw them with hands with 4 fingers because it's easier. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just because of cost and stuff, they have to do that. So,
and if you ever see a TV show where they do have 5 fingers, it always looks weird.
Yeah.
Like,
there's a funny part in The Simpsons where they are at like a freak show or something like that, and like the hideously deformed 5-fingered man, and this guy's got like 5 fingers, and it's like, it's hideous, it's funny. But yeah, it does look kind of weird, right? If they don't do it right, it's got to be like they have to be a really good artist to get it right.
Japanese animation, which sometimes tries to be super realistic, like the hands still look weird with the 5 fingers on them, right?
Weird.
And and then you look at the classic Disney animation where like they still have a difficult time with the 5-fingered hands on their things. But I was wondering if you think, because you talk about like demons not doing feet or hands right, and that could be, this is just me pontificating. I'm not the pontiff, but what about because that's where the Christ's wounds were the feet and the hands and the side, and not being able to, because that's one of the ways that you can tell like a false Jesus apparition is.
What's what I was saying? Were you listening? Were you paying attention?
I know you were saying. You're talking about Marian apparitions. You were talking about Marian apparitions, but I'm talking about the stigmata and having the wounds on the hands and the feet, like
they don't have them. That's the way Padre Pio.
Right.
Found a false. The devil came to him.
Right, and that's like Christ always appears.
Said, you're not Jesus. You don't have the wounds, and the devil's like, drat, cursed and spoiled again.
You got me.
That's what he said. Verbatim.
Yeah.
Padre Pio. I would have got away with it too if it wasn't for you, Padre Pio.
Yeah. It's true story. I think it's part of what makes us human, right? Is our hands and our feet being designed that the way they are. It gives our opposable thumbs and all that stuff. It helps us. It's how we are. It's what makes us human, to be quite honest. Like partly, right? We can make things. It's how we are like God, right? In some ways, like we can subcreate. We can create things. We can take matter and make it into something beautiful, right? And yeah, there's something about that the demons just can't get right, and the AI has a hard time with that. And I think with AI, I think it's probably just because it's artistically very hard to do, but it is interesting that it is like, there's kind of a parallel there. And I know that there's like one guy who wrote an article who is arguing that AI is only going to get better and we can use it to make, the good Christian art we don't have right now. And I'm like, no. There's no. If you want biblically accurate images of like Jeroboam or whatever, like pay someone to do it. It's worth paying someone to do it because you can create one in like 5 seconds, but it's not gonna mean anything. It's just
It's funny too because like in terms, I play a lot of video games. We talked about this, and for a while now, it's been possible for humans to, because it's not a technological thing necessarily, because they program some of the most detailed, especially if you're playing like first person shooter games. The hands, they can get them near perfect levels of realism, the articulation and everything. But something about when AI tries to do it on its own, it's very interesting.
Well, with video games, you have a human being there who's helping create. They have computer. I don't know anything about making video games, but there are people involved at every level, right? So with AI, you just type in prompts and you get whatever it spits out. And I've played around with Midjourney. It's fun. I'll like type in this and see what I get. And like, oh, that's pretty interesting. And I think you can use it to like generate ideas. I think that's perfectly fine. Or like what you're doing, Stephen, is making funny music. Like I think that
it's not funny. It's serious music, ska punk about the martyrs.
Nothing he does is funny. So.
But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of weird stuff out there, and I like Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World. He covers a lot of weird stuff, and it's just the world is stranger than we.
He looks AI generated.
He is.
He looks like a bad AI generation.
He is. It's in his name, AI can.
Oh my gosh!
Right there. So.
Oh, look at that.
It's not good.
Has anyone counted his fingers, his toes?
I mean, he doesn't show them on screen. He just.
There's got to be a reason.
It's shoulders up, So he can't show, because then he wouldn't have the wounds, right? And that means he's not a.
No. He would have too many fingers. He would have too many fingers.
I'm just saying that he's not an apparition of Jesus. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
sure. Jesus was a ginger.
I suppose that's fair.
First off, Jesus has appeared as many different races. He might appear as a ginger, although
only with his mother.
But I'm just saying.
I don't know of a single solo. This is true. I don't know of a single solo adult apparition of Christ where he's adopted a different race. I only know of him appearing as a child with his mother when she does likewise.
Yeah, that's a good point. I wonder if there's because I don't know, Jesus. There aren't as many apparitions of Jesus as there are. Not to my mind. I mean, there's like
no.
Saint Faustina, right? But then even when they made that image of her vision, even she was like, "That's not what I saw."
Right? Oh, because she has
a miraculous medal.
Light, she's like, "I don't like that image. It's not a good, not
Saint
a good."
Saint Catherine Labouré with the miraculous medal.
Okay. Yeah.
Had a vision where she showed her how she wanted the medal to look, and
mm-hmm.
It's always difficult. Yeah.
Jesus is very busy. Most of the times he sends his mom. Yeah, he's just like somebody needs to go talk to this person. Mom, can you handle it? No, of course, hon. Whatever you need.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah.
Very true.
Well,
okay.
Yeah.
But okay, we need to talk about some Christmas stuff again before we finish this.
Have you guys seen the movie The Polar Express?
Yes,
it's creepy. That looks like AI generated creepy weirdness.
So, do you think it's creepy, Stephen?
Oh yeah.
Okay, and I don't think it's creepy per se. I think it's really badly done animation.
Yeah,
where
that makes it creepy,
and it didn't age well, right? It did not age well at all, and
Uncanny Valley.
And it's exactly, and it's trying really hard to be a profound Christmas movie, and I don't hate it, but I watch it. I've seen it a few times, and I'm like, there's stuff I like about it, like the fact that he can hear the bells, that's the whole big thing. Like he can hear the people who don't believe can't hear the bells, and then he can hear the bell throughout his whole life, even when all of his family stopped believing, he still believes. And I like that a lot. I like that a lot. But yeah, with the animation, it's so dated that everyone who watches it now is just like, this movie's super creepy.
Well, that's with like the kid's face, because I was watching something about it last night. It just so happened. I wasn't watching the movie, but I was watching a video about the movie.
Yeah, right.
And like the kids' faces, because just of the way they did the motion capture, like in certain scenes, they look like it's just a mat on top of like they're not rounded or anything. It's just like a flat face that's been shoved onto a lifeless corpse. And that gets creepy
That's
does.
perfect.
Yeah, no,
They-
I
they-
agree. I agree.
They
Yeah.
spent their whole budget animating that hobo on the top of the train because, like,
Right.
that guy's rendered really well. That hobo is like super well rendered.
Right.
Dead guy.
But the kids, though, the main characters of the film are not.
And Tom
Right.
Hanks is just creepy in general.
Yes.
One person described him as aloof. He's kind of aloof in the whole movie.
Yeah.
And you don't know if he's like, he seems to be a good guy, but he also, it's like, there's something about him that you just don't really like.
Yeah. I picked it up the first time I saw Big when I was young.
Mhm.
I was
I
like,
was
this is
saying
the
Tom
creepiest.
Hanks. Tom Hanks in general is a little weirdly creepy.
Well, Steven, that's literally what I just. Here we go again.
No,
I
that's
literally
I'm
just said that.
saying you're talking about Tom Hanks in general being. I'm clarifying because he was talking about.
Well, I
in the
didn't need
movie.
clarification. I literally said Tom Hanks is creepy in general.
In general, go on. We make a good show. He and I, we play off each other.
I can tell.
Ridiculous.
Do you need help, Stephen? Do you need to call someone?
I'm fine.
Is he okay? How'd you get that black guy?
He gives me lectures before we go on. He bullies me off the air.
Oh, I
Don't let him
see.
fool you.
It's quid
He
pro
tells me what
quo.
he's like, don't say this, don't say that. Every
Don't
time.
bring up Pac-Man. Don't bring up
Don't bring
Pac-Man.
up- I'm handcuffed. I'm handcuffed in what I can say. Who did this?
I showcased it, but the Kaylee says Tom Hanks is no Tyler Perry. I don't know if you're talking about in terms of creepiness or in terms of just
I'm gonna go with
acting
in terms of
ability?
creepiness because
Tyler
he
Perry
also
is
creepy.
Aerosmith? No, that's not right. Who's
No,
that?
Tyler is Medea.
Yeah, he's the one that dresses up like
He's
like a
creepy.
big fat woman in all of his movies.
What's
a
that?
big fat grandma.
I see. Okay.
That's
I don't
also
remember
Martin Lawrence.
watching any of those movies.
You
Martin
also
Lawrence-
described Martin Lawrence.
Martin Lawrence did that for one series of movies. It wasn't.
In fact,
like
they
he's
did
doing
that great.
different.
They did that great bit on 30 Rock. We've mentioned 30 Rock. This is like the third time now on the show. But there's
Good
that
job.
great bit where Tracy Morgan, as Tracy Jordan, the character,
Mhm.
has put out a series of films called Honky Grandma Be Trippin'. When he dresses up as a big fat white lady grandma. And he says, "You kids better watch out. This honky grandma be tripping."
That
It's like the inverse of
that is a man who understands comedy. I'm not saying that
what
he's
happened to
like
him? He is so funny.
he got old, I guess, and he just took his giant bag of money and retired
not
or something.
old.
I don't know.
I'm not old Stevie comedy.
It's like,
I
then
still
your,
could do it.
then your kids get lost in a quarry, and then you have to tell your wife that you lost a kid in a quarry. Like what?
What's that from?
It was another 30 Rock. It's just one of the things he
You know, we
said.
mentioned Michael Caine, and I didn't even do the thing. Are you happy?
Michael Caine.
Huh?
Michael Caine. Go ahead. Do your Michael Caine.
It takes a man in a tweed suit 4.5 seconds to fall from the top of Big Ben to the ground. Now, there's not a lot of people know that.
It's really good. Give that man an Oscar.
Oh man, it's a good. It's a good Michael Caine. It is. It's spot on.
All right. Polar Express is creepy. We've established
Polar
that.
Express is creepy.
Yeah.
Most
Tom Hanks
Christmas
is creepy.
movies
Tom
aren't
Hanks is
actually about
creepy.
Christmas.
Forrest Gump is the worst movie ever.
Forrest Gump is a really terrible movie. If
It robbed so many good movies of an Oscar that year. I can't believe it won anything. What a terrible movie! It's about abusing a person with mental impairment.
It's one of those weird movies where, like, on first viewing, you're like, "Yeah, this is interesting," and then you watch it again with some level of critical thinking.
Mhm.
You're like, "This is terrifying. This is
Well,
like
it's
a
trying to
horrible
play
thing."
on sentimentality. That's what they
Right.
do. But it's terrible. It's
I have to
disturbing.
watch it again. I've seen it a couple times. I remember enjoying it, but yeah, I've heard this criticism before, and I haven't watched it with like a super critical eye, so I'd have to like go back and watch it. But
The 90s were a fun time.
yeah,
Well, they're
Yeah.
better than now, but that's a low bar.
It's true. The 90s were the time where you could, like, say whatever you wanted and
Well,
kind of get away with it.
you would like that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, here's my least. I was just gonna do that, and you did it. Stop doing that.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. There you go.
I hate this question. So somebody that we both know, Steven, you and I, had me on their show many years ago before I worked for, I don't know if I should say anybody's name. There's a guy, he's known for doing gun stuff, for being a firearms guy, and he's also a Catholic.
I know the guy.
Okay. He's in the okay. I know you know him. I know you know him. I introduced you to him.
I know who you're talking about.
Okay.
And so we're good.
So he's a I don't know what he does shows now. He does like exclusively Catholic shows. That's fine. And he had me on his show before. We used to work for the same radio network. I think he's back there, but I'm not sure. Anyway, we used to work for the same, but before I worked there, I think it was before I worked there, he had me on his show. He had a big radio show one year as like a call-in guest. He's like, "Oh, it's Christmas Eve, but can you be my guest on the show? I want to talk about what is or is not Christmas movies." And I was like, "Yeah, of course." And he was like, "Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?" I said, "No, of course not." And he said, "Why not?" And I said, "Here's my principle, okay? I'm going to call it the principle of the integral Christmas." and I said, "If you can," and I stand by this to this day. I can be argued out of it if you gentlemen care to oppose this view. But I said, if any semblance of any of the elements having to do with Christmas can be completely removed from a movie, and the plot of that movie will play out and function in the same exact way, it's not a Christmas. So Home Alone is not a Christmas movie. Die Hard is definitely not a Christmas movie. You could maybe make the case for, except for small bits, for It's a Wonderful Life not being a Christmas movie, even though that's my favorite Christmas movie. Because you can take, certainly with Die Hard, because it was a Christmas party, could have been any party. Could have been the Office. It could have been anything. There didn't have to be a party. Okay? So that's my contention. So the question is, Die Hard Christmas movie makes me crazy.
Yeah.
It's not, because people are like, they're militant about this. It has to be. But why does it have to be a Christmas movie? It can be a good movie.
It didn't even come out at Christmas. It came out in July.
Right. Yes, exactly.
I have
the fact that it's on Christmas, it takes place on Christmas. It's arbitrary. I don't think the only time it actually, I haven't watched in a long time, but the only time it really comes in is when he writes "ho ho ho" and that guy.
Right.
That's
like, need to.
Right.
If it was Easter, it'd be like, now I have a machine gun. Hop, hop, hop.
What a stupid thing to do. What a stupid thing to do for him anyway. Because
that's psychological warfare.
He gave up the whole element of surprise. Now they know he's there. Now they know he has a gun. Now they know he killed one of their guys. Stupid. It was not Christmassy. He didn't need to do that. It would have been better off if he didn't do that.
I have a different criteria for what makes a Christmas movie than yours.
Here's the thing with Home Alone too. They didn't break in, because this is they say this. They didn't break in to the house because it was Christmas and all the presents would be around. They wanted the VCR. Well, the VCR is there all year round, isn't it?
High-end goods, VCR.
Oh, there's no reason for that to be a Christmas movie.
In the first one, the crooks are waiting because they're like trying to figure out when people are, if they're going to be gone for Christmas, right? Like, so
no one is.
Well, that family was, right. So the family that they're going to break into, they were like, "Are you guys going to be here?" Because he's dressed as a cop. We just watched it like last year, with the kids, and I forget the actor's name, but he's dressed as a police officer, right? And he's like, "Oh, like we're just going around making sure everybody's going to be okay." When like, "Oh yeah, we're heading out," blah blah blah. And so then they can kind of scope out. Now, does it need to be on Christmas for that to happen?
No,
not really.
Now, Home Alone 2 is completely a Christmas movie because you can't take the Christmas elements out of that movie and have the plot function.
Mm-hmm.
So that one.
So I disagree with you. Like, I have different criteria. So my criteria are that it has to mention God or religion, and mention God or Christ. Yes.
Charlie Brown Christmas does. That's about
Charlie Brown Christmas does. Home Alone does. Home Alone 2 does not. Yes, they go to a church. He goes to a church. He takes refuge from the thieves in a church.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He hides in the nativity scene. It's a Wonderful Life does. So it has to have reference to.
Oh yeah, It's a Wonderful
God.
Well, Capro was a Catholic.
Right. Mm-hmm. So it has to have reference. Or it has to make reference to God in the Christmas season. So that's one. That's like the main thing.
But that alone does not make it a Christmas movie unless it's God in the nativity is being referenced. Because if you just reference God,
Well,
Mhm.
you have
God's
so you
always
ha-
around.
so it has to follow the themes of Christmas, right? Which
Secular
is
or religious?
religious themes of Christmas. That's how I make my
Okay.
determination. So
Okay.
Home
Okay,
Alone
that's fair.
starts off with Kevin, whether he understands it or not. He asks for Saint Nicholas to intercede for him, or he asks for an intercession for a miracle to happen, which in this case for his family to disappear. Saint
Right.
Nicholas responds by
Well-
interceding for him, because that's the whole point where they zoom in on the Saint Nick on the door that's rocking back and forth. That's Saint Nicholas granting him or interceding for him to have that wish granted so that he would be left behind. Divine intervention is
No.
the only explanation for why the parents left him behind.
No, well,
Right.
they're stupid. They were stupid.
Well,
That's
they
the
were
explanation.
stupid, but
They
that's
had
the thing, like,
listen. They had a house with 4 million people in it and had one alarm clock.
yes. Well, no, all the alarm clocks went
Stupid.
off because the tree. There was a freak windstorm which knocked out the phone lines and the electrical lines
Mhm.
right after Kevin
Yeah, but
wished for a
Steven,
scenario like
an
that to
alarm
happen.
clock runs on batteries.
Sometimes, yes,
More
but
often than not.
these ones
Back then?
didn't. Yeah,
Back
these
then?
ones apparently didn't.
You used
They
to have
must-
you need a backup.
Right. I remember.
Secondly, so Kevin he's too stupid to pack a suitcase,
Yes.
but
Oh,
he
yeah.
can create all these death traps.
I'm aware of the other incredulities of it. I'm just saying, from form of a Christmas movie, the big revelation, the big like where he turns around, happens from when he goes to church, and he goes to church,
But wait,
and he meets the
your
neighbor.
contention is that Saint Nicholas answers prayers of people hoping to kill their families.
Not
what
kill
you're
their family. I'm saying that
you're saying
Kevin and
Nicholas,
his
kill my
family needed to
family.
learn.
You
They
got
needed
it.
to learn.
And
They
Saint
needed to
Nicholas
learn
is
a
in heaven
lesson.
like, yeah, okay, I'll kill your family, sure, no problem.
But his family
I'm happy
wasn't
to do it.
killed, and
What?
his
But
family
he didn't
wasn't
know
killed.
that. He's a
Right.
psychopath.
Everyone
He assumes his
learned
family's
a lesson.
killed, and he does a little dance. And his
learns
little
to-
eyebrow dance. Oh, my family's dead.
My family disappeared.
This is what happens.
Look, I saw that video too. You know,
What video?
there's a whole video about explaining how.
Well, I'm sure there is. I don't know what you're talking about. This is common sense.
Okay, so in any case,
And then he runs around like a chicken with its head cut off.
because he's an 8-year-old kid, of course.
Well,
Well,
okay,
he's-
I would be terrified if I was being a normal 8-year-old, thinking my family was dead.
All I'm
You're
saying,
celebrating, Stephen.
all I'm
I
saying,
mean, okay, your dad made you watch the iPhone convention, but I mean, does that mean you wish him dead? Good grief.
not dead. But I'm just saying that it fulfills my requirements for a Christmas movie, because there's a whole lot of
Murder of your
Catholicism.
family.
There's a lot of Catholicism woven through it. There's a lot of miraculous things that occur during it, even if
This is a
it's
stretch.
weird. I mean, the fact that all
John
of
Candy's
the
in it. Can't be all bad if John Candy's in it.
right, and so you've got that, like, It's a Wonderful Life also meets that. Muppet Christmas Carol and the Christmas Carol generally meets that, because it
Well, yeah,
talks
sure.
about
Nobody's
God.
arguing that.
Mhm.
Nobody's arguing those.
But like,
Well, it's
anything-
Die Hard we were really talking about.
right, Die Hard has no mention of like Christmas or the Christmas
No.
spirit or God or religion. Or
I
anything, so that's out.
I will allow that you can make a much stronger case for Home Alone.
Yes,
Yes, I will concede that.
right, because
With
he has
Die
to
Hard,
ask.
I don't see the case being made for Die Hard.
Yeah, Die Hard's out. Die Hard is not a Christmas movie, and I don't care what Taylor Marshall says about the Rolex. I saw his post about it.
I don't know what
You're
you're talking
watching.
Rolex.
So Taylor Marshall makes the contention that the wife in Die Hard is given a Rolex by her boss, which is a symbol of her wealth and her fidelity to her job.
Mhm.
And the way that Hans Gruber, when he falls
Taylor
out of
Marshall
the
was a
window,
lunatic.
right? But when she falls out
Who
the
cares what he
window,
What are you talking about?
I'm just trying to explain for people who have seen, like, his contention is that when she
Do
falls,
you know
when
that Taylor
Hans
Marshall
Gruber,
is 4 feet tall?
I think 4. I thought it was at least 5.
No, he's 4 feet
He's
tall. He's 4 feet tall. This is true. This is not counting me. He's 4 feet tall. I saw him at the parish one time.
Okay.
He's 4 feet tall and he walks like an elf. He's very
Hmm.
quick. He's speedy, and he won't look you in the eye. He's like,
Does he wear like a pointy hat?
no, it
I
wasn't.
mean, not at
okay,
mass.
maybe he wasn't wearing a hat. Yeah.
No, not
But in
mass.
him,
You wouldn't wear.
he vanished.
Hmm.
And if you catch him, he'll grant you 3 wishes. What would he?
I
What was he
was waiting
talking
for
about?
it.
What were you talking about? He said his wife gets a Rolex from her boss.
So
Which
in
is,
the
in
Die Hard, his wife has a Rolex from her boss, which simply this is I'm stating his position. The Rolex symbolizes her devotion to her job. And in the end, Hans Gruber falls out the window, right? And he grabs
Spoiler
onto
alert.
her.
Spoiler
Right.
alert.
Yeah, I think it's like 30 years old. I think we're okay.
Wow.
He grabs onto her Rolex, like her, and the only way to free her, so John McClane, John McClane is not in that movie. John McClane, he has
Well,
to.
it'd be better if he was.
He has to. He has
He
to
did play the
take the
Penguin
watch.
in the Batman TV show, though.
He has to take the watch off of her,
Wow.
and then Hans Gruber falls to his death, and so that is showcasing that he is removing the shackles that chain her to her job.
Okay.
That's his contention.
Even if that all is true,
it's still not a Christmas movie.
It's no, right. I agree. Yeah, that's very good. I actually like that analysis. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's nothing. I think people they argue that Die Hard's a Christmas movie just because like it's kind of edgy and funny to do that. And then there are people who believe it. You know, they took it too far and they actually believe that it's a Christmas movie and they're actually trying to defend it as a Christmas movie. And I think it's funny to argue it. You know, and it takes place on Christmas, so it's like okay, you have that. But like you said, Chris, is that you take all that Christmas stuff away, the story remains the same. You know, it's window dressing. Like the Christmas stuff is just arbitrary. Now I'd be willing to be convinced otherwise, but
sure, me too. But I haven't been yet. A lot of people. I can't remember what position Rick took. Oh, I mean the guy that nobody's watching.
Look, there's definitely people who contend that it is.
By the way, I never get invited on any, having even worked in that industry. Nobody invites me on any of those. Good, I don't want to be. I mean, it's nice to be asked. But you, meanwhile, get invited on all those things.
I do. But I'm not talking about me. We're talking about
Aaron. They're mean to you. I wouldn't go on if I was you.
You know what the message that I have to deliver is good enough that I don't care what
they don't love you like I do, Stephen.
No,
they're just using you. They're using you.
I'm okay with it. I'm okay because it helps me to spread the message of humor and joy, and Aaron spreads the message of Faeries.
Great success on guysdoingthings.com.
Guys doing things and Stephen doing things with Gaston.
Stephen and Gaston doing things.com. Nobody said Stephen and Gaston doing things.com. Okay. You're making it something that I never intended.
Okay, whatever. You know what? We're gonna let it go. We're gonna leave it be.
You need 5 dozen eggs.
Stephen and Gaston wrestlethebeast.com. Well, that doesn't sound right.
There you go.
That's worse.
That makes it worse.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
Stephen and Gaston wrestletheHairyBeast.com. No, I don't.
Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. The Grinch is not a Christmas movie. The original one maybe, but the newer ones no. I know that you would say that if you took the Christmas stuff out of there, it wouldn't. But it has nothing to do with religion.
Stephen and Gaston taken unawares by a hairybeast.com.
Nope. That's first off way too long.
That's fine, right? No, it's good.
It's long. It's very long, and no.
Stephen and Gaston shaveafuzzymonster.com. How about that? That's good. Because they could have just shaved them. He probably would have looked the same afterwards.
Some dental work.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? You register the domain, and then we'll chat about it.
Did you write it down? Because I'll forget.
That's what. It's written right here on this napkin that I have. That's
okay. Great.
It's actually.
I saw it. It was on there.
Yeah, it's totally there. So that's good. Yeah. Aaron.
So what is a Christmas movie? What is a quintessential Christmas movie? What is some must watch in both of your households at Christmas time? What does a year not go by that you
Muppet Christmas Carol, probably Rudolph, Charlie Brown Christmas, Charlie Brown Christmas, maybe Elf, depending on the year, and And honestly, my wife and I've been watching Fat Man. Like we've been watching that like probably every year for the past couple of years. It's not for kids, but
No,
yeah, I don't know. There's
I'll have to pick it up.
Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol. That's
Oh,
it's on the box
boy.
set that we got. And that's it. It's honestly not bad. It's okay.
I haven't seen that in
Yeah,
a long
kids wanted to
time.
watch it. I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be awful. And it honestly,
No,
they
pretty
did
good.
a pretty decent job. Mr. Magoo did a good job as Scrooge. So yeah, I don't know. I can't think of anything else.
What about have either of you watched well it's called both Babes in Toyland and also March of the Wooden Soldiers with Laurel and
Yes,
Hardy?
but those are two different movies.
No, they're not.
Because there's one with Laurel and Hardy and there's one without Laurel and Hardy.
I'm talking about the one with Laurel and Hardy. It's called both. In Europe, it's Babes in Toyland. In America, it's March of the Wooden Soldiers.
And but I guess there were two movies that came out at about the same time, both basically Babes in Toyland. One with Laurel and Hardy, one without Laurel and Hardy.
I don't know that that's true, Steven.
It is.
I don't think they came out around the same time. Why don't you do your thing that you love to do and look at it?
I'm gonna do that. Okay.
This is great television. This will not air.
It already is. So there's Babes in Toyland, which was a 1961 film, and then then there's March of the Wooden Shoulders, which is a 1934 film.
Yeah,
I guess they didn't come out at around the same. I always get confused by the
30-year difference, Steven.
There's something. There's a thing where they. You know what? I know that there's a thing, and there are two movies that came out about the same time.
I know that there's a thing. This is some more great wisdom we get every episode.
Yes.
We'll add that to it. I know that there's a thing. Stephen Garone. We can add that to babies get born small and then they grow bigger. That was on the first episode. You told us that.
They do. They get. That's very much a true.
And
thing.
then and then the second episode you said everyone is part something. That was the next one. And now to that we can add, I know there's a thing.
I know there's a thing.
Right. These are great. These are fantastic. I learned so much. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. You know what? They are 30 years apart, but
yeah. Mm-hmm.
They look very similar, and the storylines are almost identical. And I always want to watch the one with Laurel and Hardy.
It's a remake.
I know. I want to watch the one with Laurel and Hardy, but I end up finding the one that doesn't have Laurel and Hardy.
I think it's hard. They ended up, I think, not preserving the original Laurel and Hardy one. So when they do air it, it looks god awful, which is unfortunate because it's really good. They're doing somebody is doing a whole series of Laurel and Hardy remasters right now, and they're releasing them on Blu-ray. I really want to get them, but so far as I know, that one's not among them because of that, for that very reason, that the original has degraded so much that it's like beyond restoration.
Do you know that that in It's a Wonderful Life, the original cut was the Angel Clarence was going to be Laurel and Hardy, both of them playing two characters that are angels trying to get their wings. That's a lie. But Chris crashed, his computer crashed, so we don't get to see what his reaction to that is. So
oh yeah, he's frozen.
Yeah, I know. But this happens. Like sometimes the computer will just crash, and then I get to take over as host for a little bit.
You become the God King of the podcast.
I do become that. And then he comes back and he's like, "What did I miss?" And I'm like, "Nothing." And then I talk to the other person. So we're talking about fairies and fae and Nephilim and stuff. I posted once. I was like, "Oh, aren't like fairies demons?" And man, did I get a response from people who were like, "No, they're fae." Like this is a different thing. And literally, someone was like, somebody posted there are the angels in heaven, and then there are the devils that are in hell, and then the fae are ones that fell. They didn't fight in the war, and so they fell, but they didn't have the sins to weigh them down further. And that's the fae. So they could be good or evil. They can be helpful or hurtful. Like that sounds like a ridiculous explanation. And I have this book of Irish folklore, and there's a short story called The Priest's Supper. I'm like, oh, I'm going to read that. And it starts off with the fae are like you have the angels in heaven and the demons in hell, and the fae are the ones that fell from heaven but didn't have enough sins, didn't have the weight of sin to drag them down to hell. Like
that is one of the
Like,
C.S. Lewis talks about that in that the discarded image, that he gives a number of explanations as to what fairies are, and the point of fairies is that they're ambiguous, right?
mhm.
Both in like what they are, whether they're male or female or androgynous or whatever, how many there are, what if there are different species or whatever, or if they're all just one big thing. The whole point is that they're ambiguous, and they so like C.S. Lewis talks about that in the discarded image, and how like the medieval model, the scholastics had pretty much a place for everything in the cosmos except for fairies, except for the longevity, the fairies, and that kept a bit of wildness to their system, so you can't have a completely totalizing system, because that would be totalitarian, right? That would be too what am I trying to say, too rigorous. And so you got to have an element of wildness in it, and to keep things from becoming too ossified. And so they had these creatures. They didn't invent them, partly. I mean, they're partly a literary invention and partly not. They're folklore creatures that are they good? Are they bad? Are they male? Are they female? Are they what are they? I don't know. So that's the whole point, is that they're ambiguous. So when people are like, well, are they demons? It's like, well, they can be, maybe some demons. I don't know. Like, you just don't know. Should you talk to them? No. Should you try to seek them out? No. You should probably just assume they are demons, and it's safer for everybody, But yeah, it's a really interesting subject, because are they real? Are they not? I don't know. That's the whole point. They're ambiguous. You don't know if they're real or not.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. He's
Okay.
back.
And I'm so sorry. Continue whatever you're talking about.
It's all good. So yeah, there's other explanations for it as well, but that's the main one, is that they're like the neutral angels that didn't rebel against God, but they didn't completely side with Satan, but they didn't fight with God, so they're neutral, right? Now, can anything be truly neutral? No, like not in the grand scheme of things. So something will happen to them, at the end of time. And there are stories of like St. Anthony of the Desert meeting a satyr who asks him, can we receive the Eucharist? I don't know if we can or not, and so they're not sure, at the end of time what their judgment is going to be, if they're going to be sent all the way to hell, if they'll be redeemed, or even if they exist, like if these creatures even exist, I don't know. Now there are other explanations, like they're the ghosts of dead kings and queens, like pagan kings and queens, which I think is kind of cool. Also, they're not good creatures then, there'd be,
right. Best of
what else? They're like, there's one piece of folklore that in the garden, Adam and Eve had all these children before Cain and Abel, and when God was going around the garden, he's like, I want to meet all your children. Well, Eve noticed that some of them were dirty, and so she hid them. And God, when they were expelled from paradise, her first children became the hidden folk, the fairies. And so because she hid them, well, they're going to be hid from everybody, right? So yeah, really, there's a lot of different stories as to how, like, what they are, where they came from, and it's really fascinating. And I think to have to be open to their existence, I think makes life a lot more interesting.
It does.
Like to be open to strange things, not necessarily go seek them out and like try to find them at ghost hunting shows or whatever, but like just being open to it. And like, there's a lot of weird stuff out there, and it might not all fit in what we think. I mean, it's all a part of God's plan, but like, we might not know all the plan, right? We might not know. God,
we definitely don't know
here that just don't apply to us,
Yeah,
they're not relevant to our salvation.
I have one more question to ask you, and then we probably should wrap up if Chris doesn't have anything else to ask.
Yeah, before my computer crashes again. And Stephen, thank you for holding down the fort.
It's what I do. Okay, so dinosaurs.
Oh no,
dragons.
This is a long question though.
Okay. This is not. So
no, it is.
Are dragons dinosaurs, or are dinosaurs dragons?
So that's a long.
Because like when they discovered when discovered dinosaurs, right? And they're like, oh, well, these bones look like what people used to or would say were dragons. So these are now we're calling them dinosaurs.
Yeah.
But were those dragons that they found, or is dragon something completely different? And dinosaurs are not dragons, and dragons are not dinosaurs.
So my answer to that is in the book of Genesis, when you have the serpent. The serpent, it's the Hebrew word is, what is it? Nakash, I think. And it means three different things. It means light bringer, or something like that. Deceitful one, and serpent, right? So, and it actually means all three of those things. And so the serpent is a dragon, right? He was the guardian of paradise that fell. He fell and he became Satan. And then so in the book of Revelation, you have the dragon that sweeps his tail across the heavens, and all the 1/3 of the stars fall, and those are the angels, right? And so dragons, to me, in my opinion, dragons are spiritual creatures, demons, basically. Dinosaurs, I think. So this is just kind of off the top of my head. I don't equate them, right? Because they're physical beings, right? And if they're created by God, they're physical beings, and they're not inherently evil, right? And dragons aren't inherently evil either, I don't think. But so they're guardians, right? So they were meant to be good, but then Satan fell, right? So the serpent fell, and so maybe now all dragons are evil. Maybe because of the fall of the angels. I don't know. But I think there are, in the book of Genesis, you have when God's creating all the physical things, he's also creating simultaneously all the spiritual things, like the angels and stuff like that. And it's possible, it's just off the top of my head, it's possible, it's just my opinion, that the physical creatures we have, have their parallels in the spiritual world, right? So maybe dragons or dinosaurs are like the fleshy dragons of this world, right? Of the physical world. And then you have like their spiritual counterparts. I don't know. So I'm not going to equate them, but they're definitely related. I think they're related to each other, but I don't think I equate them. Now it's really interesting because like the Middle Ages, they would draw dragons with feathers, right? And then we had dinosaurs discovered, and then they're big lizards, and now they're like, well, actually a lot of them had feathers. So it's like we've kind of come full circle on that, on how we conceptualize them. And so I don't know. I don't want to like equate the spiritual realities of like dragons and demons and stuff to physical earthly creatures, because that would make them like evil, and there are no evil animals, right? There are like symbolically, you can, like a lion, for example, a lion could be Christ or the devil, right? You can do that with any animal, right? And some are more some symbolically like lean more towards Satan, right? You have like flies and maggots and stuff like that, but they're still good. Right? They still do a good thing in that they help break down death and give life, kind of break down the carcass into the soil, and then the soil brings forth life, so they do a good thing. But it's easier to see them as something evil and vile, right? And so I think that's my long-winded answer. So I think dragons are related to dinosaurs. I don't equate them, but I think they're related.
Yeah, I just always thought it was weird that like in the 1800s somebody finds dinosaur bones and they're like, aha, like these are the things people used to think, like there's no such thing as those flying crazy lizards that people were talking about in the Middle Ages. Those don't exist.
Right.
Like dragons don't exist. However, dinosaurs, this thing I just discovered that looks almost exactly like the dragons that people were talking about, those are real, right? These are real things. Like, why wouldn't they just call them dragons? That's the weird thing.
Yeah, I don't see. Some people do equate them, right? And they say, yeah, dragons are dinosaurs, and I don't have a problem with that. I think it's completely understandable why people say that. I don't have a problem with that. I just think of it like, it's like kind of like when people are like, oh, snakes are evil, right? And it's
I hate snakes.
And it's like, well, they're creatures, right? And they have a Christ-like symbolic component to them as well. You can, basically the material world is this icon that we can use to learn about God, right, through the natural world. And nothing in the natural world is evil, right? It's fallen, all of creation, it groans for salvation, but it's not like inherently evil. So yeah, it's like you can totally read a dragon, like a dinosaur as a dragon, and like, oh yeah, they're the tyrant lizards, right? The Tyrannosaurus Rex or whatever. I used to be huge into dinosaurs when I was a kid. That was like my
Everyone
thing.
is.
Yeah. Some kids had trucks, some kids had whatever. I had dinosaurs. But yeah, that's my long-winded answer. I don't know if it makes any sense, and I don't know if I'll agree with myself in a couple of years or whatever when I learn more. But might change
All
my
this stuff
opinion.
is so interesting. That's why I don't like the demythologizing. That's not a word.
Mhm.
Of understandings of reality, of the Bible, of faith.
Right.
Stephen and Gaston Russell, the Fleshy Dragon.com.
Nope.
No? I
No.
thought I had a good one. Sounds like a
No.
children's book.
Got to be careful
No.
how I use the word fleshy.
Yeah.
It'd be a great
I think-
children's book, no?
I think he is very careful with how he uses the word fleshy.
Well,
And,
it sounds like a children's book,
No, it doesn't. I do not think. I think if we try to market a book like that towards children, we would end up on a list, and I do not want to end up on a list.
Or you would be you'd have it in public schools.
Yeah, it'd be in public schools right away. I don't know what you're talking about, Stephen.
You'd be a hit.
I think it's very catchy. We'd
So
have
what
to
are
get the
you
rights
working-
for Gaston.
What are you working on now? What do you want to like pitch to?
I think that would be the problem, right? Would be the rights for Gaston is probably owned by Disney. So it might have to be Stephen has a solo wrestle with the Fleshy Dragon.
No,
That's right.
Aaron. What are you working on?
working
How can we divert
on?
from?
Yeah. So I'm just making podcasts. I had one come out yesterday. Today's Monday. Yeah. So yesterday, we talked about Charles Williams's The Place of the Lion. And then I'm going to have another one come out in January. And we talk about Paul Anderson's The Broken Sword.
Oh, nice.
And then a number of people have sent me some books for me to read and have them on the show. So I'm going to try to prioritize people who sent me some stuff so I can make good on my promise to have them on the show. It's just things get busy. And but yeah, that's my goal. So just keep making podcasts, and I have other stuff kind of in the works, but they're a lot more long-term goals and projects and stuff that I probably shouldn't mention too much now, but there's might be more stuff coming down the road.
Do you know what I just read? Aaron, did you ever read The Princess and the Goblin? It's
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I finally just read that. What do you think of that? And is the sequel worth reading also?
So
Birdie
I
and the
thought
Goblin?
I've read a number of George McDowell's stories. I like them a lot. I thought I wasn't taken with The Princess and the Goblin as much as I thought I would be. I guess I went into it thinking, so I read Lilith first, his last book and his most dark and his most adult. And I'm like, wow, this is really good. And then I was expecting more of the same with like The Princess and the Goblin, and it's for kids. So I think my expectations were just like way too high. I liked it. And I probably should read it again, but I've read a number of his other short stories, and they're all really good. Like there's the Wise Woman. That one's really good. I need to read more of his stuff, but I have Fantasties on my shelf over there, and Lilith and stuff, and a number of his short stories, and I've read a good amount of them. But yeah, he was really influential of like C.S. Lewis and Tolkien.
Big time.
Yeah, he was kind of an inkling before there were inklings.
Have you read the follow-up, Curdy and the Goblin?
Yeah, I have. Yep. And
it's good. Okay, it is. Okay.
Yeah, I would read them. Yeah, they're worth reading for sure.
You're left hanging a lot about the grandmother. Is any of that kind of resolved in any way?
I don't remember. I don't know if he does a whole lot of explaining.
Okay. Which is fine. That's fine.
But he does a lot of symbolic sort of imagery,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And so, and I don't know a ton about his like literary philosophy, but it's very similar to Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, I think. So, even though they had their own disagreements, but they were, in the grand scheme of things, Tolkien and Lewis were on the same page about stories.
Right.
And I think MacDonald was too. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I've just started. We'll wrap up after this, but I'm only like 5 pages into Pirate Freedom, Gene Wolfe.
Oh, sure. I have not read that one yet.
Oh, okay. Maybe if you ever do read it, maybe we'll have you back on and we can have a talk about that, because I'm told from I had the guy from rereading Wolf podcast on the show.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Before the show became this, and he says it's like Wolf's maybe most overt Catholic work. So,
yeah, I've heard
which I
that because the
didn't
main
expect.
character is a
He's a
priest. I
priest.
think.
Yeah,
right.
which I knew nothing. I was just like, I like pirates.
Right. Yeah.
So I was like, I'll get this, and I like Gene Wolfe
Right.
for as much as I understand. I love Gene Wolfe.
Right.
So I was like, well, that's a marriage of two things
Most
I really like.
underrated Catholic author.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, so I mean, he's a pain in the butt. I think is why a lot of people don't. But I mean that in the best way possible.
Right.
You know?
And his stuff is fairly adult too, so it's like it's hard for Catholics to read it because he's difficult in terms of like what he's trying to get across and like how he's telling the story. And then he's got some adult content in there too, which is it's not nearly as bad as like even like Neil Gaiman or like George R. R. Martin or Stephen King.
That's what I was going to ask you.
But it's very like he's blunt. Like he's blunt. He'll straight up, you know, he doesn't beat around the bush, but he's not like he doesn't drag you through the gutter, you know.
No, it's not pornographic or anything.
No.
It's just
but it can be uncomfortable, you know, and so that's a kind of a hang up, you know. I completely understand it. I don't like whenever I recommend Gene Wolfe, I always have those caveats for people. It's like, okay, if you don't like that stuff, you're not gonna like Gene Wolfe. And that's okay. Not everybody has to like Gene Wolfe. But I think he is worth reading and worth engaging with, especially if you are of a more literary sort of bent and you can handle some grislier stuff. So yeah, I mean, I think if you can read some medieval literature, you know, because it can be fairly blunt too, and I think that's where a
lot of the Arthurian romances have bluntness to them.
Yeah,
and that content in them. I think he's part of that lineage in some way also. So,
well, and like Homer's Odyssey too, you know. And
for sure, yeah, definitely. The Greeks.
They have, they're very, like, and so if you can read that stuff, you can read Wolf, and like I haven't read Pirate Freedom, but I have, I know that it's about a Catholic priest, and Wolf was a Catholic and a devout one, right? So and so
and a genius.
And a genius, you're right. He's a literary genius. So
I have one final question. One absolutely final question.
All right,
this will be a quick one. Is there any way we can get Neil Gaiman to stop writing introductions for books? So we have like a petition.
If the allegations are true, he might.
Are there allegations? I don't know anything about this.
Well, he's alleged to have sexually assaulted some people. So I don't know if it's
true.
True. I have no idea. Well, he's in an open marriage. I don't know if he's in an open marriage now, but for a long time he was in an open marriage with his wife.
Disgusting.
Yeah, he's not a great guy. He's not a great guy.
No, I didn't think so.
But there are allegations. So like the person he like had an affair with 20 years ago has come out and said like, oh, he sexually assaulted me. And then they went on to have like a 10-year, several year long affair or something. I don't know if that's true. I don't know. But yeah, he was in an open marriage.
Gross.
Yeah, it's not good. Not good. So even if it's not true, it's like, it's still kind of creepy and weird. And
because I feel like I can't pick up a decent book without an introduction by Neil Gaiman on the front of it.
Yeah. Well, Neil Gaiman, he's got really good taste. He does.
He does. Got really good taste. He doesn't understand anything. We've talked about this. He understands nothing. Like he'll like a thing, but I don't think even he knows why, because he refuses to accept the premises of so much of these books.
Right.
The idea of the really, especially in someone like Gene Wolfe, I don't have any idea how he gets around his love of Gene Wolfe while rejecting the core of so much of what Wolfe dealt with. I mean, it's just, I don't know.
No, I know. It's baffling, but yeah, I've said this before. Like he's a bad man with good taste. You know.
Yeah, there's a lot of those, unfortunately. I mean, sometimes that causes a shift in the person but I feel like he's consumed so much of that stuff that if it was going to happen, I mean, only God knows.
If he had an open marriage, he was doing all these shenanigans, you know. Again, I don't know if he sexually assaulted people or not. I don't know. That's not for me to decide. I have no idea. But those are the allegations, and who knows if they're true? But it's not good either way for him. And I know that sin deadens the intellect, and so it's like, what do you expect? You know, and a lot of the time people like don't want to convert because they're fornicating basically, and so they don't want to give that up, right?
Yeah.
They don't want to Lord make me chase but not yet, right? So
Augustine, yeah.
so yeah, it's tough, but it is hard because like he was really big in, and he still is big in the fantasy sort of literary world. And I didn't know this, but apparently there's this thing called the Gaiman rule, the Neil Gaiman rule, and you like it's like you shouldn't be alone with Neil Gaiman, basically.
Boy.
He'd like hit on you, if you were a girl, and that's what I've heard, and
yeah.
it was kind of I guess it was kind of an open secret.
Well, we were ahead of the curve, me and you, and not liking Neil Gaiman.
Well, I don't like Neil Gaiman because he gets like most of the way there and then he stops short, right?
It's so annoying.
Yeah, it's really frustrating. And like, I don't like the conceit of his book, The American Gods, where so he gets some things right, like the pagan gods. Well, no, he actually doesn't get this right. In paganism, the gods don't care if you believe in them. They don't care about you at all. But in Gaiman's mythology, like that's what they want. They want belief because belief is what helps them exist, right? And I don't like that conceit. I don't like that at all. And his whole, like, all of his gods and demons are all like arbitrary. It's like Satan Lucifer doesn't have to be Lucifer if he just wants to stop.
It's like Sandman. He started that nonsense in Sandman.
Yeah,
that's exactly what happened. I love what Pajot says about Gaiman.
No, yeah, that's
exactly. 3-minute video. People can look it up.
Perfectly.
Pajot. The problem with Neil Gaiman, and it'll lay out in like 3 or 4 minutes exactly what's wrong with.
And he's right. Yeah, he's completely right. He's like,
completely right.
For Gaiman, everything is arbitrary. The gods are arbitrary. They can be like, they don't have to be the Lord of Dream if he doesn't want to be. And he's got a lot of imagination, but he ultimately, like his literary heroes like Chesterton and Lewis and Tolkien and those guys, like he doesn't get what they're doing. And if he does get what they're doing, he rejected it and he's doing something more nihilistic.
Yeah, it is.
So,
he's unmired in anything. There's nothing.
To me, Tim Powers is like the better version of Neil Gaiman.
Yeah,
they both do similar things, but Powers is Catholic and he's a much more interesting writer. So
he's your favorite, right? He's your favorite.
Yeah. I like him more than Wolf because he's more accessible than Wolf is.
Well, almost anything is more accessible.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
but
Shakespeare to some extent more accessible.
yeah, right.
Steven, you got anything else you want to ask Aaron before we let him go? Wrap up?
No, I'm good.
It's good to meet you finally, Steven.
I know.
You guys never met?
No, the reason why I agreed with this whole podcast thing with Chris was because he said you were going to be on. So.
Yeah.
It's flattering. Thank you.
I promised him.
Well, yeah, when you said you said you're going to be on it too, I'm like, oh, I'll finally get to meet him. Awesome, cool.
Yeah.
Well,
you like Pac-Man. You got a Pac-Man thing in your back, behind you there. So, it works. It's a game. That's cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Well, thank you, Aaron. I will link your podcast and your social media in the description of this episode when we're done. And Steven, you have a permanent link for your festival on the page. You know that, right? The YouTube,
yes, I do.
The About page. Okay. Does Aaron know? But do you know about his festival? He does a comedy festival.
No.
It's in Arizona, so it's a bit
of a drive. Festival, Steven.
I'm in Minnesota.
It's a bit of a drive, but we do a festival every year. This year it's on February 15th, and we have Paul Rugg is coming out, and we have Jeremy McClellan who's going to do some stand-up, and we've got a local comedy troupe called Holy Smoke Comedy. Tickets are available at catholiccomedy.com/festival, and if you can't make it there, you can buy in there in spirit ticket, which basically just a donation to the festival. Jeremy McClellan, yeah,
that's awesome. Wow, he's a pretty big name. What's that? We saw Jennifer Frey. Do you know? No, is it Jennifer Frey? Is that the Catholic?
Fuller.
Jennifer Frey's a literary.
Fullweiler. Jen Fullweiler. Yeah, she's expensive. So
she's hilarious. Before we had our third child, or was our fourth child? Like the day before we were about to give birth, we went and saw her in the Mall of America. And she was hilarious. Yeah, she was really funny.
Yeah, she's definitely. And one day we might be able to afford to have her out, but that only happens if people do their donations and stuff.
You could have Aaron do a lecture.
I could have Aaron do a lecture if he wanted. I don't know how much we'll have to talk offline about that. And
how much you got?
Aaron, ask for $5,000.
And the answer is no.
Yeah, right.
No.
Well, then you negotiate from there.
Yeah, we'll negotiate up, right? So start at 5, we'll go to 10.
Well, he's gonna have all those royalties soon from Steven and the slippery. What was it?
Don't just let it go. Let it go.
This book.
Thank you very much for being on the show. Let's wrap this up and get it's not.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, thanks for having me,
It's
guys.
been a lot of fun. Yeah, you illuminated a lot of stuff for us, and it's always a fun time to talk to you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Die
perfect.
Hard's not a Christmas movie.
Okay, no, okay. This has been this week's episode of Good night, everybody. And now is the time on the show when we freeze.